a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Well, my guest today is a musician. He has an album out called A Road to Nowhere, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about some of the songs he's written and other things. Time to meet him, Terry Banks. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Hello, Nancy.
So this album, oh, sorry. Yeah. This album came out in 2018. Is that correct?
I mean, the songs on the album itself have been in progress since I first started writing back in like 1977. So the one track, Thinking of You in the Good Old Days, was the first song I ever wrote. The lyrics were in 1977, but the music 2009, I think. So it took me 30 some odd years to put that song together.
Okay.
But yeah, it came out. It came out a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe there's like what, 11 songs on it?
11 or 12 songs. Yeah.
Okay, great. So okay, let's go back. So now, when did you first start performing?
I've been performing my whole life. I was from a very early age, just a natural, I guess. You know. My mother was a single mother when she had me in 1961. So she would go to work and leave me at home with my Nana. And my Nana would cook and bake all day in the kitchen and listen to music. So when I was old enough, I could sit up on my own. She would put me on the floor and give me some pots and pans and wooden spoons to bang on. And so I just developed my my music ability and stuff from a very early age, as well as my palate for food, because I ended up becoming a chef as well too. So
oh my goodness, wow. Hey,
so that all goes back to my childhood.
Yeah, for sure.
My Nana's kitchen.
Well, when did you first start performing like on stage?
As a musician, well,
Yes.
I mean, I started in school doing like school plays and stuff, but when I was a kid, I don't know, I had ADHD or something, and I was just very full of energy and stuff. And I would, in the middle of the class, I would just all of a sudden jump up on my desk and start doing, it's not unusual to be, or, you know, doing some Elvis Presley or something. So like I said, I was performing. But my first band, I put my first band together when I was 13 years old in my parents' basement. And by 15, I was playing professionally, getting paid to play gigs. So as a drummer, I started off as a drummer. I had natural rhythm. So
all stemming from those pots and pans.
All stemming from those pots and pans. Exactly.
How cool is that, right? So no, okay. So you mentioned being a chef. So were you doing both at the same time? Like, well, alternately, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I did the bar thing when I was, 17, 18, 19, 20 type of thing. Tried to make a go of it, but it didn't go anywhere. And then I met my first wife and started having a family, so it was time to settle down. So we moved out here in 1991 from Ontario, and 1993 I started Vancouver Community College doing the culinary arts program. So I threw myself into getting a trade so I could raise a family. But the music was always there. I always had a guitar or something, so I never strayed too far from it, but I just didn't do it professionally at that point. I focused more on my career as a chef.
Are you still cooking? Are you still working as a chef?
Oh no, I retired in 2011 from cooking. I turned 50 and I said, that's it.
It's a tough gig, isn't it?
It is, evenings, weekends, holidays, long hours. And I wanted to get back into doing the music and stuff too. So I just went back into Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type work in warehouses and stuff. So that gave me the opportunity to spend more time pursuing my other passion, which was music. So
Right. Are you currently in a band or a solo performer?
both. Yeah, I do solo stuff, and I'm currently working with a couple other fellows right now, trying to get a project going. So mostly at this point, it's mostly cover material, and it's kind of 70s to current sort of
Mhm.
rock, hard rock to sort of the metal genres. So we're just kind of getting to know each other, and just kind of feeling it out. But we've had a couple of very successful rehearsals so far, so it's looking good.
Very good. Yeah. I want to go talk about some of your songs, like get an idea about how, what the reason was for writing them, or, if you can tell me the feeling or the emotion or what brought them about. So one of them is, let's see where we are here. What is that? Truly Julie.
Okay, Truly Julie is actually, there was a girl named Julie, and she was playing in a band back in Ontario. It was a family band. She had her brothers were part of the band. It was called Brothers the Band.
Mhm.
They were from Owen Sound, Ontario, and I don't know. Her and I just kind of hit it off. I mean, not in a just
Friends. Yeah.
just as friends kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I went home one night and I just started playing my guitar, that riff that you hear, that da 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 da, that, and I started playing that, and of course I had just been hanging out with them at the bar, and I was like, Julie, Julie, right? And it just kind of came together like that. So there was kind of a little bit of inspiration, but it's just one of those ones that, just kind of everything kind of came together at once. So
Mhm. What about the song "A Road That Leads to Nowhere," which is also the title of the album, "A Road to Nowhere"?
again, so I would say probably 80% of what I write starts as lyrics,
Okay.
and then I develop the lyrics, and then I put the music to it. This was one of those songs where I just wrote this song called "The Road That Leads to Nowhere,"
Right.
and it just again came together. I put some music for it, and I was working with a producer and his team out of Covington, Georgia. So what I would do is I would do the demo of the song, and then I would send it down to them, and they would record the music professionally for me. So the musicians that you hear on that track are all like top-notch musicians out of the States. So
Well, I find
but
it. Yeah. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
think I think the inspiration for that song was kind of like two of my biggest inspirations are probably like the Beatles, Paul McCartney, especially because him being left-handed and me being left-handed, and I play a lot of instruments as well too. So kind of like the Long and Winding Road, and then Billy Joel too. So both of them write these songs like New York State of Mind, The Long and Winding Road. So that was kind of sort of my sort of take on that. Like life is a long road, and you have choices. You can go this way, you can go that way. If you take the wrong road, it's a road that leads to nowhere. But hopefully you find the right road, and when you get to the end of your life, so that was kind of that type of feeling I was trying to convey. It's
Right.
like, make sure you choose the right road. The road that goes to somewhere, not the road that leads to
Yeah.
nowhere.
One of the things I find interesting is you said that you come up with the lyrics first, and I've interviewed musicians who come up with the music first, so it's kind of, it works either way, it seems, right?
I mean, I have written songs that, like I said, like Truly Julie, that one started off as that guitar riff. So
Right.
that one was music first. But
Okay.
like I said, sometimes I like Thinking of You in the Good Old Days, for instance. So I wrote those lyrics back in 1977.
Mm.
And then I had this little recording machine, and I used to sit there and record my little riffs and stuff like that. And so one day I was going through one of my drawers, and I pulled out this box that had all these lyrics that I'd written, and I was like, oh wow, I haven't seen these in a long time, right? And so I started going through, and I was, oh, I should put some music to this one, and thinking of you in the good old days, because that was my first song that I wrote, my first lyrics that I wrote. So I was like, oh, and I went back to that little machine, and I started playing back, and this the one like that do 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 that you hear was, I was like, oh, I could maybe use that riff. So like I said, the lyrics for that one came from 1977, but the music came from 2009. So they weren't intentional for each other,
Right.
but when I put them together, it was like they were meant to be, kind of thing. So yeah, it's like I said, music, songwriting is, sometimes the music's first, sometimes the lyrics are first, sometimes both things just click together at the same time. So
Right. It's kind of fascinating, I just
it is.
my playlist, my Spotify playlist is getting so long because every time I interview a musician, a singer, songwriter, whatever, our band, I add their songs to my playlist, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I hope I don't run out of room. Now you have a family. You mentioned you started a family at some point, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Do your children perform at all?
Well, I have 4 sons. My oldest son is a fantastic, amazing drummer. And again, like me, he was born with natural rhythm.
Nice.
Actually, when my sons were inside the mother's stomach, I used to get my guitar, and I would get down really close to, and I would play my guitar and sing to them and talk to them. And my oldest son, Matthias, he would react. He would start, like, felt that he had this spirit of music. And again, like me, as soon as he could hold a set of drumsticks, I had him on my drums, and he became a fantastic drummer. My second oldest son, Cody, I told him that he should become a bass player. I said, because bass players are hard to find. Everybody wants to be a singer, a guitar player, or a drummer, right? I said, so if you can become a good bass player, you'll be worth your weight in gold. Right? And so I think when he was about 14 or 15, I gifted him a bass guitar that I had, and he took to it. And then since then, he's learned to play the trumpet, the saxophone, the guitar.
Right.
He's put together a couple of bands. And then my third oldest son, Ethan, became a guitar player, singer. And then my youngest son, I had him playing the drums, the guitar, the trumpets, right? So they've all been very musical. And I've had an opportunity, actually, Truly Julie, Thinking of You in the Good Old Days, You Make Me Feel, and I'm All In. Those songs on my album all feature my sons on instruments.
That's fantastic.
And then there was another fellow, Sean Raquelme, blues puppy, who was very well known around the area at one point. He was like, when I met him, he was 13 years old. And I call him my 5th son. He also played on that album as well. So I had my sons in the studio with me on some of those cuts.
Right. That must be really great as a dad. Like my son is very keyboard. Like from the time he was little, you could just see he would practice just play on a piano. And his aunt said to me one day, she said, like he was about 4 or something, and said, she said she taught piano. So she said, it looks like he's actually trying to play rather than what little kids just sort of do, And eventually he wanted to learn the organ. But nowadays, like he's a grown man, and he uses these great big, huge synthesizers or whatever. But it's that same thing when it's there, it's always there, whether you use it or not, right? But it's always something that's there. I think that's wonderful.
It's something that you're born with. I mean, it's something that can be learned at the same time, but I think you have to be born with it. There's got to be that little germ inside of it, that little seed that germinates and becomes, right? Like I said, for me, it was just because I was surrounded by it all the time. Like I had my grandparents, my parents, my older siblings. So I had multi-generations of influences. So my grandparents listened to, they listened to stuff from the 30s, 40s, 50s. My parents listened to something from the 40s, 50s, 60s, my older siblings, right? So I got everything from the Mormon Tabernacle Choir to Gene Krupa, to Benny Goodman Orchestra, to Anne Murray and Roger Whittaker, to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, right? So
Right.
I was just, and we had an old Victrola, one of those old wind up
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
78 records in our basement. And I would go down and put these records on and listen to stuff from like the 30s and 40s. So
Right.
it was just, it was there, right? It
Yes.
was,
Was
you were
there,
just
yeah.
surrounded by it, right?
Right.
And there was the radio, right? The
Right.
radio was always on.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You're in the car, you're listening to the radio. You're at home, you're listening to it. So there was just always music around. So couldn't help but be touched by it, moved by it, right? But with
Yeah.
me, it just with me, it's like I don't know. I'm like a sponge and I just like soak it in, right? Like even at night now, I sleep with earbuds in and I listen to my music while I'm sleeping. So it's there 24 hours a day.
Right. Yeah. I was saying to somebody, another musician I interviewed is like, I can't sing and I don't play any instrument. I just have a great last name, but I hear rhythms all the time. And I said to him, I think I was meant to be a musician, but I never learned anything, right? Well, I did when I was a teenager, picked up the guitar for a while, but I didn't stick to it. But it's interesting to me when like somebody like you with a natural talent, and I think that if you weren't using your talent, somewhere inside, there's always this dissatisfaction. That's
Yeah.
It's
it's hard. Like sometimes if I don't have a guitar with me, like I'll be at work or I'll be somewhere where I don't, and it's like there's that craving almost. It's like it's like being a smoker and not having a cigarette, and all of a sudden you're having a craving, and it's like I need to get a cigarette. It's like I need to get a guitar, or I need right. So I'll start playing things in my head, or I'll start writing down lyrics. Like one day I was working in a warehouse. I wrote 10 songs in one day. I used to carry around a little pad of paper in my back pocket because sometimes I'd have to go from the store into the warehouse and pick product to put on the shelves. So I'd carry a little pad of paper in my pocket and I could write down the numbers of the product that I had to go and pick in the warehouse. And one day I was like, oh, and I started writing lyrics, and then they just kept flowing and flowing, right? So I was glad I had that little pad of paper, and I couldn't wait to get home, because then I go home and I take those little lyrical ideas that I start writing and then formulating them into longer structures and then putting music to them and stuff. So like I said, it's my wife is amazed. She's like, your brain just never shuts off, right? Like it's always going.
And you have to do is what you have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, I kind of figured it out. On average, I've written probably anywhere from 3 to 5 songs a week over the last, 40 some odd years. So I've probably penned at least 2,000 songs, like lyrics and musical ideas. Like I said, things that so back in the 1980s, I had a little 4-track cassette recorder that I could put my ideas on. So I had all these cassettes with all these little riffs and progressions and stuff. And somewhere along the line in a move, I had about a box, a little shoebox with about 50 cassettes in it, and it got lost. So I lost all of this stuff that I'd written. But the thing is, I've got a bit of a photographic memory, so I can remember a lot of this stuff. So I'll go back and how did I play that again? Or what were those words again? So I've been able to recreate some of that stuff just from memory, but there's still a lot of stuff out there that I mean, I wish I could find that box of cassettes, because man, I'd be writing and writing and writing. But the thing is, I keep writing new stuff too. So it's not like the well is run dry or anything. I hear people say that, they get writer's block, but for me, it's like I don't know, it's just like a fountain. It just keeps flowing, flowing, flowing. So I'm lucky that way, I guess.
I think it's wonderful.
And when I get stuck, like, people talk about writer's block or whatever. When I get stuck, I change my direction. So instead of trying to stay on the same, and really trying to force myself, I'll just say, okay, well, I'm going to stop what I'm doing for now, because obviously I'm not getting anywhere. And then so say I'm trying to write a a ballad or something, I'll say, well, maybe I'll go and I'll write a Latin song or a orchestral song, and I'll start playing on my keyboard with different strings and stuff. So I find different ways to sort of focus, and I find that usually works. It breaks that staticness or whatever, right? So it's nice to have the ability to play different instruments and to be able to try different styles of music, because that keeps it all sort of fresh for me. So
yeah, very good. Well, I think that's awesome. Well, we're going to end it there. And just stay with me. I'm just going to talk to the audience, and thank everybody. You've been listening to Terry Banks, and remember, he's got an album out there, A Road to Nowhere. You can find it on Spotify, and I can't know all the other places anywhere where you find music. I'm sure they're all out there everywhere. And it's kind of interesting, if you go and you really listen to other people's work, whether you're a musician or somebody like me, it really is great to listen to the lyrics and to the rhythm. I just love it all. So hopefully you'll check his work out and purchase some, because it always helps them. Musicians are poor. Most of them are very poor.
Can I just mention one thing? It's Terry Banks Music on Spotify. If they're looking for me, it'll be under Terry Banks Music. And terrybanksmusic.com is also my website. So it's easy to find me.
Glad you mentioned that. That's great. Yeah, I found it no problem when I went on Spotify. So your name comes up pretty easily. Actually, I just put in Terry Banks.
Okay.
So it did come up. So anyway, thanks. Yeah.
There are a lot of Terry Bankses out there. I've done searches, and there's a lot of yeah.
But you had given me the name of your album, so I knew that. So that helped a lot. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching the show. I hope you continue to do so, and subscribing would be nice. But share so that word of Terry's work will get out, and other people will get to listen to his work, and that's always nice, Anyway, thanks everybody. Take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.